Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys spending some time with me today on the video. Really appreciate that. Guys, today I want to talk about jerkbait profiles in terms of the different sizes of jerkbaits and when you want to use a different type of profile, because really depending upon the time of the year and a lot of different conditions you have in the lake you're fishing, it really dictates a different profile in order to be successful with jerkbait fishing. So we're going to give you guys some detailed sort of advanced tips on that in today's episode there. Also guys, quick invitation, I'd just like to invite you to please consider subscribing here to Advanced Bass Fishing. We're getting real close to that 10,000 subscriber mark, and if y'all could hit that subscribe button and help us get over that mark, it's a really good way to support the channel, so much appreciated there. Okay, now to me it's like when I'm talking about jerkbait sizes and profiles, I've done this for a long time, guys. I've fished jerkbait since the, I started throwing my first jerkbait like in the late 1970s. And being from the Missouri Ozarks here, which is where jerkbait fishing sort of originated, you know, I had a chance to really fish with a lot of experts and learn a lot about it. And one of the first things I noticed was how different times of the year and under different situations, a different size of jerkbait is more productive than the other. So I've got 4 primary sizes here that I want to go through, sort of give you guys some tips and advice on it, and we'll get into that in today's video here. Also guys, I'll put a link to my Megabass jerkbait link if you guys would like to get some different profiles. You use that link that's in the description of the video. Good way to get you a bunch of good baits and support the channel at the same time. Okay guys, let's start out in cold water environment. When you're talking about December through say February, which is considered the traditional jerkbait time of the year, jerkbaits are associated with colder weather months. And when the water gets really cold, and especially if the water gets a little bit on the clean size, you need to use a small profile jerkbait. You know, something like this. This is the Megabass X Nanahan, and something that's about 3 inches long. A finesse jerkbait is going to be a lot more productive in the cold water. It's just metabolisms of the fish have slowed down a little bit. You know, the bait fish they feed on and they're schooled up is a little bit smaller. They don't require quite as much food, and for whatever reason, guys, I get 10 times the amount of bites on a little finesse jerkbait than I do just with even a regular size jerkbait. So I'd suggest going with a little 3-inch size in the wintertime, especially if your water visibility is over 3 feet. Now I don't fish a jerkbait much in the wintertime if that water visibility is much under 3 feet. I like at least 2.5 feet or so visibility for it to be good jerkbait fishing. So clear water situation, little finesse jerkbait is going to get you a lot more bites. And also, guys, it'll get you a ton more bites if you get confidence fishing this thing with 4-pound test line. I use 4-pound test Seaguar and Vizex line on a little finesse jerkbait, and the reason for that is you can get the bait down a lot deeper, you get better action on the bait, better control of the bait, and as long as you're not fishing it around any cover, you're not going to lose any fish on it. I've very seldom broke off 4-pound test on a finesse jerkbait fishing it in the wintertime situation. Now the next transition that comes with it, once that water temperature starts warming up and the daylight hours start getting longer and you start getting into the pre-spawn, this is the time of year, in my opinion, that they like the biggest jerkbait of the year. This is when I catch them on the bigger jerkbaits. And there's 2 different profiles and 2 different sizes I like on this, based upon the time the time of the pre-spawn, and also into the post-spawn a little bit. So that's when I go to the larger sizes, like a 5-inch model here. This is the Megabass Edo Shiner, which is a 5-inch jerkbait, and then the Megabass Kanata, which is a big 7-inch jerkbait. So the thing that I use in the pre-spawn lot is this Edo Shiner here. It's a larger profile, it's higher across the back here, has a much better presence in the water, bigger profile. And in the pre-spawn, like right before the fish start spawning, the bait fish are larger pretty much than they've been all year long. Usually the shad will start spawning like in May. So when you're talking about, you know, March and April during the pre-spawn, your shad are at their biggest. They're larger. You got big gizzard shad, big threadfin shad, and that's why they like a little bit better size. And also, the fish are actively feeding and they're hungry. They're getting ready to spawn, trying to build up energy for the spawn, and they want to feed up and they want to get big and fat, you know, in preparation for the rigors of spawning. So that's why a bigger jerkbait like the Edo Shiner works pretty good. I usually fish it like along channel banks, that type of stuff. Most of the time, 8 to 10 pound test Seaguar line. And again, I fish everything on a spinning rod except for the 7-inch one. Now, After the fish spawn and into May, there's two different windows where a really big jerkbait works. In the month of May, after the fish get done spawning, and also again in like October, as long as that water temperature is in the 60s and 70s, the biggest jerkbait that you have is going to work. This is the big 7-inch Megabass Canada jerkbait. 7 inches long, large profile, puts off a lot of action in the water. And after those fish get done spawning in May, they're hungry, they're ready to feed, they want a big meal. And for some reason, I don't catch as many on the really big jerkbait in the pre-spawn, but they do bite it good in the post-spawn and again in the fall time of the year. Favorite way to fish it by far, guys, is take this Canada in May or October, November, and get on bluff banks in the main lake, bluff banks in the creek arms. Throw this thing parallel down the bluff banks, and I catch a bunch of fish, that time of year doing it. And finally, just your traditional 4.5-inch model, just the Megabass Vision 110, which everybody knows about. This is the traditional, typical jerkbait size. Now, for me, there's a lot. This thing works. First of all, guys, this thing works 12 months out of the year. It's not like it does. It's not like it doesn't work, at all in the places I'm talking about. I'm just talking specifically that those bigger and smaller ones will work better in the conditions I just described it. But the 4.5-inch model like this is a versatile model, and it works literally under about every situation. Most of the time when I'm fishing the regular size 4.5-inch jerkbait, that's in a situation where everything is pretty normal. Like you got normal weather conditions, everything's normal with the water clarity out there, and you also have less fishing pressure. If you have less fishing pressure, a normal size jerkbait will work a little bit better, because one of the reasons a normal size jerkbait doesn't work as good in heavy fishing pressure situations is this is what everybody throws. If you have a lake that is getting a lot of jerkbait pressure, Clearwater Lake, all that type of deal, I try to stay away from the 4.5-inch model because that profile is seen over and over and over again by the bass. So I usually go bigger or smaller and usually do pretty good with that. But anyway, that's just a few of the guidelines that I use as far as choosing the profiles and sizes. That ultimately you have to let the bass, decide that for you, what they want, because a couple different things that will determine size is, the type of weather you have that day, where it's sunny, if the wind's not blowing much, if it's windy, if it's raining. Most of the time in the nasty weather conditions, they're going to want the bigger size jerkbait, and in the lighter wind conditions, higher sunlight levels, they want a smaller one. And just let the fish try to dictate, experiment a little bit with it, see what they prefer, because the combination of the weather and also the species of bass has an impact in it. In general, you're going to find that the largemouth prefer a larger size jerkbait on the average, and if you have a lake that has a big spotted bass or smallmouth population, they tend to like a little bit smaller model. So anyway, I hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.